Have you ever wondered what goes on behind the closed doors of the world's most powerful families? We're not talking about your average dinner party. We're talking about events so bizarre, so extravagant, they sound like something straight out of a movie. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most talked about, mysterious and downright strange parties in modern history. The Rothschild Surrealist Ball of 1972. Picture this: Château de Ferrières, a magnificent 19th century palace just outside Paris. The date is December 12, 1972. The host is Marie-Hélène de Rothschild, a prominent member of the ultra-wealthy banking dynasty. The invitations themselves are a work of art, but with a cryptic twist. They're written in reverse, forcing guests to use a mirror to decipher the details. The dress code? Black tie, long dresses, and surrealist heads. This wasn't just a suggestion. It was a requirement. As the high society guests arrived, they were greeted by a scene that would make Salvador Dalí proud. The chateau itself was illuminated in a fiery red-orange light, making it look as though it was ablaze. Inside, the staircase was lined with staff dressed as cats, posed in various states of sleep or even dying. The journey into the party was a labyrinth, a dark, confusing maze of black ribbons, where a cat would eventually rescue you and lead you to the main hall. And this is where things get even weirder. The dining tables were a spectacle of the macabre and the surreal. Imagine sitting down to a table adorned with dismembered baby dolls, cracked skulls, and taxidermied tortoises. The food itself was part of the art. One famous photo shows a mannequin laid out on a bed of roses as if it were the main course. This wasn't just a party. It was an immersive, multi-sensory experience designed to challenge reality itself. The guests, of course, fully embraced the theme. Audrey Hepburn famously wore a cage over her head with a bird inside. Hélène Roches had a gramophone for a hat. And Salvador Dalí himself, the master of Surrealism, was there, naturally soaking it all in. The photos from that night are a stunning collection of the bizarre, a who's who of European aristocracy and artistry, all hidden behind elaborate, often terrifying, masks and headpieces. So what was the point of all this? On the surface, it was a lavish celebration of surrealist art, a movement that explores the subconscious mind and dreams. It was a chance for the wealthy and powerful to let their imaginations run wild, to escape the confines of their very structured lives. Marie-Hélène de Rothschild was a renowned patron of the arts, and this party was her masterpiece, a living, breathing art installation. She wanted to create a night that no one would ever forget, and in that she certainly succeeded. But over the years, a darker interpretation of the 1972 ball has emerged. As photos from the event began to circulate online, people started to see more than just an eccentric party. They saw symbols. They saw rituals. The bizarre headpieces, the macabre decorations, the reversed writing on the invitation to some, these weren't just artistic choices. They were seen as evidence of something more secretive, something hidden. Conspiracy theories began to swirl. People pointed to the horned masks and animalistic costumes as proof of occult rituals. The dismembered dolls and skull decorations were interpreted not as surrealist art, but as symbols of dark, hidden practices. The very name Rothschild, synonymous with global finance and power for centuries, fueled the fire. Was this just a party, or was it a gathering of a secret society, a glimpse into the symbolic world of the global elite? One of the most frequent claims is that the party was a meeting of the Illuminati, a secret society that conspiracy theorists believe controls world events from behind the scenes. They argue that the surrealist imagery was a coded language, communicating messages of power, control, and even global dominance to the initiated. The all-seeing eye, a common symbol associated with the Illuminati, was said to be present, hidden within the elaborate costumes and decor. For example, the host, Marie-Hélène, wore a stag's head mask with tears made of real diamonds. Some interpret this as a representation of a powerful weeping deity or a pagan symbol. Another famous guest, Baron Alexis de Ride, wore a complex, multi-faced mask. This has been analyzed by theorists as representing a two-faced nature, showing one face to the public and another in private. The whole event, with its maze and disorienting atmosphere, is seen as a metaphor for the way the public is kept in the dark, navigating a confusing world created by the elite. Now, let's take a step back and look at the facts. The Surrealist movement, which peaked in the 1920s and 30s, was all about challenging norms and exploring the subconscious. Artists like Dalí, Magritte, and Ernst frequently used bizarre, dreamlike, and sometimes disturbing imagery. They loved playing with symbols, but their goal was artistic and psychological, not necessarily conspiratorial. The Rothschilds were major art collectors and enthusiasts, throwing a party in honor of this movement and inviting its most famous living practitioner, Salvador Dalí, makes a lot of sense from an artistic perspective. Many of the so-called occult symbols are also common tropes in Surrealist art. Animal heads and fragmented bodies are all part of the Surrealist vocabulary. They're meant to be unsettling, to make you question what's real and what's not. It was avant-garde, it was provocative, but was it a secret ritual? There's no concrete evidence to support that. The guests who were there have described it as a wonderfully eccentric and unforgettable night of fantasy and art, not a sinister ceremony. However, the power of these images is undeniable. In the age of the internet, a single photograph can be stripped of its context and reinterpreted in countless ways. The 1972 Rothschild Ball has become a modern myth, a cornerstone for theories about a hidden ruling class. The secrecy and immense wealth of the family make them an easy target for such speculation. The party feeds into a narrative that the world's elite live by a completely different set of rules, engaging in activities that the average person can barely comprehend. So, what are we to make of it all? Was the Rothschild Surrealist Ball a harmless, albeit incredibly strange piece of performance art? Or was it a veiled display of power and a rare look into the symbolic world of a global cabal? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in the middle. The party was undoubtedly an expression of immense wealth and cultural influence. When you have unlimited resources, your parties can become live-action Dalí paintings. It was also a product of its time. The early 70s were a period of artistic experimentation and rebellion against convention. But it also serves as a powerful symbol. Whether intentional or not, the images from that night tap into deep-seated anxieties about power, wealth, and secrecy. They raise questions about the people who operate at the highest levels of society. What do they believe? What do they value? And what do they do when no one is watching? The 1972 Surrealist Ball remains a fascinating and controversial event. It's a Rorschach test of sorts. Some people see an artistic masterpiece and a legendary party. Others see a sinister conspiracy. What you see depends on what you're looking for. The one thing everyone can agree on is that there has never been another party quite like it. It continues to capture our imagination, forcing us to ask questions and to wonder about the surreal world that might exist just beneath the surface of our own. What do you think? Was this an innocent party for the artistically inclined rich, or was it something more? Let me know your theories down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most mysterious events, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that challenge what you think you know. Thanks for watching.